Well, thank you very much for being here. My wife Harriet is around here somewhere. She has press releases for the members of the media, if any of you are interested. And I want to thank you for coming out the day after Christmas. And I know you all have very busy schedules, so I shall move right along. Today, I'm announcing that I am running for the United States Senate, and I intend to win. And I think we can change history in both South Dakota and the nation. And I think it's very important that we realize that our country is presently strangled with a poisonous dispute between, and things are not getting done in Washington. We have been unable to develop a budget or appropriations bills for several years, or pass a farm bill, or do a lot of other things. And it's time that we try something different. There are presently 2 independents in the United States Senate. I would be the 3rd, and perhaps this will help tilt this balance. I would work on a bipartisan basis, working with both parties. Independents can function very well in the Senate. South Dakota has had an independent senator before. There are 2 independents in the Senate now. And some of the most powerful senators I have served with were independents, such as Joe Lieberman and Senator Byrd. So it is a very doable thing, and it will be good for South Dakota. South Dakota really needs strong leadership in the United States Senate. There are a lot of things a senator from South Dakota can do in terms of helping this state get its fair share of monies that have been appropriated, also in working with businesses and airlines for fair treatment, working with railroads, and a whole host of other things. I had the great privilege of serving in the Senate with 3 other great senators, Senator George McGovern, Senator Jim Abner, and Senator Tom Daschle. And we had sometimes weekly delegation meetings to go over what we could do for South Dakota together on a bipartisan basis. And we would search the entire federal government for projects for South Dakota. For example, grants in humanities to our universities, the Yankton prison, pipelines for South Dakota, the fish hatchery in Spearfish, and a whole series of other things. But it's my senator shouldn't just go to Washington and be a Republican or a Democrat, but to really fight for South Dakota. And I would do that, and I've had the experience to do it, and I've added to that experience during the years I've been out of the Senate. The poisonous political system that we have is what, in part, inspires me to run. One of the great problems we have is that our 2 parties do not agree on many things, but one thing that they agree on is to increase military spending overseas, and that's something that I've been very, very much opposed to. I served in 2 combat tours in Vietnam. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I think we wasted our blood and treasure in Vietnam. We have done the same thing in Iraq. For example, this morning there was a report that we're sending more missiles to Iraq and drones and so forth, and I thought that war was over. We have just announced, our government has just announced that we will spend 10 more years in Afghanistan. That is outrageous. One of the first things I would do in the Senate, and I would get an agreement before I joined a caucus, to have an up or down vote for an immediate withdrawal from Afghanistan, or at least a withdrawal within a year. It takes about a year to get out, even if you have an immediate withdrawal. Because we just go on and on in these foreign wars. So I guess in that sense, I'm part libertarian or I'm part conservative, but I feel we can have a strong national defense. We can still be involved overseas. We've got the Navy, we've got all sorts of equipment, but we need to modernize our military. Part of my time since leaving the Senate, I have been a contract professor at different universities. I've also been a Fulbright professor on 4 continents. And the French students were the most difficult to teach. They taught me. But anyway, when I was a Fulbright professor in Italy, we were right near a U.S. Army base. It's an obsolete World War II Army base with tanks and so forth. But we're stimulating their economy. We should relocate some of those bases back to the United States to enhance Ellsworth Air Force Base. Or imagine what that Army base would do for the economy of Huron or Aberdeen. if it were located in our own country. And we have mobility of troops. So the point is we need to modernize our military. We could spend less on it, and we could have it. Our country is being strangled by walls of money. The two political parties are mainly a conduit for money. Usually candidates for the Senate travel across the nation and have fundraisers from lobbyists and from the military-industrial state, and they raise millions of dollars, but the public is being left out, and I want to try to bring the public back in. They spend about 1/2 of their time raising money for the next campaign. I would not do that because I'm pledged to serve only one term, one 6-year term, and I would devote all my time to working for the people of South Dakota. For dollars, they have to travel to different cities to raise money for their next campaign. I would not have a next campaign, and I announce here today that I would not raise any money during the time I am in the Senate, and I would devote my full time to listening to the people of South Dakota and to carrying out projects, working on legislation, both national and local. There are many things that need to be done. During my time since leaving the Senate, I have served on the South Dakota Farmers Union Board of Directors of the South Dakota Farmers Union Foundation, and that has brought me to Huron frequently. It's also an opportunity that I've had to stay in close touch with agriculture. I've been a trustee at the University of South Dakota. I've helped with Dakota Abilities for handicapped people here in this area. And I've taught at 4 South Dakota universities. I taught for 1 semester at the University of South Dakota, hired by the Board of Regents. I taught at the University of Sioux Falls for 1 semester for modest pay. Adjunct professors don't get paid very much. And I've been a volunteer teacher on 2 of our Native American college campuses. So I've kept in close touch with the state. And my wife Harriet and I have interests. We have a cabin sometimes in the Black Hills. We also, I'm a part owner of a small automobile repair shop in Humboldt, South Dakota, my hometown, with my nephew Ryan. When I was in the Senate, I did a lot of legislation for South Dakota. For example, the Telecommunications Act, which resulted in the laying of fiber optic cable throughout South Dakota in the rural areas. And it brought the internet to rural and small town America. Sioux Falls probably would have had the internet, but the rest of the state, it's much like REA. And that's one of the things that the Telecommunications Act of '96 did. So I would continue to do that. I did a lot of legislation on agriculture, particularly regarding the old grain embargo and international trade. But I think now we will not see the kind of farm bills that we saw in the past. We will now have to depend more on international trade and being treated fairly in tariffs and other matters related to international trade. And South Dakota needs a senator who's experienced in that and who can fight for it. Now, I also have a bipartisan streak. I call myself partially a moderately conservative Republican or a moderately conservative Democrat, and I have some libertarian ideas. One of those libertarian ideas is I'm very upset with the NSA, with the whole Snowden affair, of the federal government, of people's emails and so forth. I had a unique experience in my life, and that related to Abscam, and I really haven't talked about it much, but it was on one of the TV stations the other night, and I had such a reaction as I go about. But part of my reason for supporting President Obama is that he opposed the parts of the Patriot Act when he was in the Senate in regards to this surveillance. And it has been I've been disappointed in President Obama because he hasn't really followed through on that in his second term at least. But it's something that I'm very concerned about. I know we have a lot of South Dakotans who are concerned about freedom, particularly in western South Dakota, and have a great fear of big government surveying. And I was once recorded by the U.S. government, and I came out fine. Still, I'm offended that the U.S. government will record some people without any basis, as they did me. And I think that's very dangerous, and I have said so. Also, my reaching out on a bipartisan basis to President Obama is based in part also, at least in his campaign speeches. I thought he was less likely to go into foreign wars. I was afraid that my good status in every one of these wars, he's even for landing troops in Syria at this point. So, but President Obama has not reduced it as much as I would like. One thing that I am not in agreement with President Obama, I would have voted against Obamacare as it was constituted. Now, we need something. You can't just be against Obamacare and not for something. It seems to me that we now have accepted Obamacare to the extent that it's been legislated and the Supreme Court's ruled on it. There's been another presidential election. We now have to fix it as best we can, and we might be able to do that with more interstate competition, with more cost containment, and but I would work on helping to fix Obamacare. One of my problems with my party, my past party, I'm now an independent, is that you can be against something like Obamacare, but you have to be for something, because a lot of our citizens in South Dakota need some help, and our institutions, medical institutions outside of Sioux Falls, in the smaller towns, which I've just traveled the state, are very much in need of some help. I was also very hopeful that President Obama would, as he said, lower the deficit. He promised to appoint a commission. He did the Simpson-Bowles and said that he would adopt those numbers in his second term, but I've been disappointed that he has not. I think debt reduction is one of the most important things. I just hate it that we are leaving such a huge deficit. I have 4 grandchildren, and I don't want to leave that kind of a deficit behind. Now, I have also done a lot of veterans work with the I'm a national board member of the Jericho Homeless Veterans Organization, and I have worked hard to be sure that our veterans get their civil rights completely, and that that we meet our obligation to them. Let me also say that when I was in the Senate, I was a co-sponsor of the Equal Rights Amendment, because I feel that we have to treat our women on an equal basis as much as we can in pay and other areas, and that's an important issue to South Dakotans. That amendment was not adopted. It was controversial. But I have a long record in civil rights. I marched with Martin Luther King as a young person, and I very much have worked for our Native Americans, and in South Dakota we have an increasing number of minorities, and I plan to campaign to those minorities. This Senate race is not a foregone thing. I intend to campaign in every county and to all groups. One thing that I'd like to do is to improve the Senate debate, this Senate debate. And I shouldn't be so arrogant as to think I could improve the debate. But I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody who said, well, if you run, we may finally have a real Senate race again, because the last few have been coronations, and maybe with good reason, I don't know. But one thing I would say to my friends in the media is that in covering an independent, I hope you treat me the same as other candidates. An independent is not necessarily a spoiler or an intruder. Our law allows for independents to run with a certain number of signatures, which are fairly hard to get, and a certain process. And I feel that I want to be a spoiler of the system in Washington, D.C., and I want very much to have a good Senate race with debates, with real issues, a contested Senate race, not an uncontested.